Hey everyone, welcome to another weekly update of Pledger. And so I don't bury the lead, no, the campaign is still not live, but it's so close, so close. And many of you have provided feedback on our first clients campaign, which has been in a private feedback period this week. First of all, if that's you, thank you. When we look at businesses like Kickstarter that have been operating for years, it's hard to imagine what it was like in their early days. You had to be there, really. See, with every business of this sort, you don't start with a neat, standardized product that makes sense. In fact, trying to design that neat standard ahead of time is a great way to make sure not only that you never launch, but also that your standard fails the moment it meets a real-life situation. In software, we call people who do that architecture astronauts. They spend all their time building something abstract and complex, and when it actually needs to be used in real-life situation, it just breaks. There's even a name for it. Gall's law, which reads, a complex system that works is invariably found to have evolved from a simple system that worked. The inverse proposition also appears to be true. A complex system designed from scratch never works and cannot be made to work. You have to start over, beginning with a working, simple system. The same is largely true for businesses, and maybe for most practical human endeavors. Start by building something that works for this situation right now, and then evolve from there to something more standardized, reusable, more cost-effective, and so on. So it is with Pledger. It doesn't begin with a site full of dozens of projects or even one particularly neat project. Like everything that works, it begins with a single project that comes to life as a sort of chaotic mess that gets evolved by the forces of reality into something that actually fulfills its core purpose. Raising funding for a legitimate startup, which is the whole reason why we're here after all. The first iteration is always imperfect. Another rule of startups from Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, states that if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. Well, even with the delays, we'll still definitely be embarrassed by the first campaign when it launches. But every single delay is because we found some critical improvement that just had to be made, even to this proof of concept. And we are so close. I'm hoping we launch in the next few days. By launch, I mean it will be available for people to mint. Will it mint out? I don't know. That's not within my control. I think it might be of interest to people in the NFT space because of its novelty, and I hope that the link to Pledger that I mentioned last week will help give it a nudge. But ultimately, the purpose of Pledger is not to keep digging into the pockets of Web3 investors or even angel investors, though all are of course welcome to invest and it should make sense to them as well. Instead, it's a crowdfunding platform, so the natural minters for this first campaign are the users of the product. In other words, people who want to see this product come to life and want to be part of that story. I hope they mint out. It's a cool business that has more utility than most of the NFT projects that raised millions during the bubble, and it's only raising a humble $100,000 with far more value delivered even before raising these funds than most of those projects have even years after minting. So I really hope they do. Either way, however, on our side, there have been huge benefits going through this process. We have learned a lot about what we want to see in place for the next project to make the whole process smoother. We now know for sure, not in theory, the legal gymnastics required to issue these equity NFTs. We have received huge amounts of feedback from people about how to improve the site flow to make it make more sense to investors. Thanks again to everyone who jumped in and helped. Amazing to have you join the story. And importantly, we also have even more validation that people want this. I've lost track of the number of people who have offered very positive feedback and expressed interest in Pledger itself and in its future campaigns. Even those who aren't necessarily fond of this specific first client are super positive about the Kickstarter on steroids product. This is a great place to be. Once this project launches, my mind will now start turning towards finding the next project to fund. We will probably do at least one more proof of concept funding, limited to 100K, in April. After that, the next project may benefit from a higher limit, but they'd have to start the process roundabout nowish. So if you know of a startup that needs more than 100K of funding, please send them my way as well. Do you know who our next client should be? Get in touch, book a meeting with me, let's talk, and let's get real startups some funding. GM, and good luck.